Hi there, this is Ray from Origami Customs, and today I'm going to be walking you through the different styles of gaffs and why you might choose to wear these gaffs at certain times or for different body shapes. I'm going to be using this handy model that you might remember from our last video about the anatomy of a gaff, and she'll be lucky enough to try on all the different styles today, so I can walk you through what they're going to look like on this particular type of body and talk to you a little bit more about how they might feel when they're on and why you might choose different styles over others. First up, we have our Thong Gaff. This is by far the most popular gaff that we carry. And in general, a lot of gaffs are going to be in a thong cut for a couple of reasons that I'm going to talk about. And we did go over in my last video, the anatomy of gaff, kind of how a gaff works to lift and tuck, why it's created the way that it is. So it's interesting if you want a little bit of a deeper dive into what's actually happening when you're putting on your gaff. So I'd recommend checking that out. As you can see here, the Thong Gaff sits fairly low rise, but it has the wonderful magical quality of being able to sit a little bit higher or a little bit lower on your hips, depending on how you like it to fit and also how much of a tuck you want, how strong of a tuck. So if you look in the back, this is obviously because there is no fabric on the butt of the Thong Gaff, which is really wonderful. You've got this nice thick section through here. It creates this really nice line around the butt cheek, very flattering. And also because of that, it means that you can also wear it up higher over the hip bones. The really nice thing about this is that hiking it up over the hip bones allows you to kind of hold that tuck in place over a part of the body that's like got kind of a natural dip to it. So you can like kind of use that as a handle. The Thong Gaff is a really, really strong tuck because it's that vertical compression that is going to hold your tuck in place. Side note, you do not have to tuck with these gaffs. They are stretchy, so they can be used as a compression gaff without a tuck, but I'm just, for the sake of this video, going to generalize and say that they're for tucking. And so yeah, this is a really, really great piece. Also because the Thong Gaff specifically, we're gonna take the measurement and ask for this measurement when you input your order, just at the high hip. That's here where your hip bones are in the front, right? Where this waistband sits. We're not gonna get a measurement down here at the low hip. That's the biggest part of the butt because it doesn't touch there, which means this piece fits a lot of different body types really well. You know, we don't have to worry about the ratio of like the hip to butt and the shape in around that area and customizing, making sure it fits really snug here and here as well. So there's a lot more like give and play to this style, and generally it's why we find that this is one of our more popular styles and something that a lot of different people enjoy. I mean, I will also say the thong is just a cut that in general, even not as a gaff, is very popular because no panty lines. So if you're someone who likes to wear tight pants, like leggings over top or a skirt or a dress, you're going to have the benefit of not having those panty lines or not having an edge here that's gonna dig into the butt cheek. Generally, we always know that that's why thongs are so popular for that reason. I will say that the thong can tend to be not as popular with people who are brand new to tucking. So it's gonna be a little bit hard to show you on this mannequin, but let me try. If we go right in here in the middle, this is called the gusset, and this is the part that goes in between the legs. Now, this is actually made wider than what this mannequin shows, but you know, you get the point. So with the Thong Gaff specifically, the gusset that goes between the legs is a little bit narrower than on some of our other styles. And I'll show you the cheeky in a minute. The cheeky also has this narrow gusset. And it means if you're not super used to using this as a compression garment, it might not be an awesome first time piece until you get used to what tucking is like, especially if you're like taking this on and off a lot, going to the bathroom while you're at work or whatever, or if you're using it for sports or things like that. If you're younger or newer to gaffing and tucking, it takes a little bit more finesse and practice and skill to just get used to that. So my recommendation for someone who's new to this might be something that has a little bit more leeway through that middle section, like one of our higher coverage gaffs, like a cheeky or a Boyshort. So continuing with the theme of the smaller gusset, less coverage overall, this is the cheeky gaff. It also has kind of a similar coverage where it comes up high on the leg here. You're getting a little bit more leg. This can create a really nice line and elongates the leg. So it's not quite a French cut. A French cut kind of is up here. It comes up high over the hip, but it is a higher rise than all of our other styles, this and the thong. So in the back, you can see we have a cut that goes through the middle of the butt cheek here. Again, this can be like a really flattering shape for a lot of people. They really like to have something that comes up high over here. It does make your legs look longer, if that's something that you're going for. It does have a narrower gusset, just like the thong. So in the middle here, this section here. However, it has more room than a thong, just obviously because it has a back. So your genitalia has more room to sit through here than a thong that obviously becomes a lot more narrow right here in the middle, right? So yeah, this is a really nice style for a lot of different body types as well. It's a little bit higher on the hips, not so much of a low rise. So for someone that has a bigger low hip to high hip ratio, that means like if you have a little bit more butt, this is a nice style because it's going to come up a little bit higher and cover that. Something that's like quite a low rise style, you might struggle to get it like to stay up high enough in the back. That's called the rise, the distance between the bottom, middle, and this waistband, basically the height of the garment. So you want something that maybe has a bit of a higher rise. One of the other drawbacks to this style is maybe that the elastic does cut through the cheek. So if you're someone who doesn't want that line to show through what you're wearing, for example, if you have very tight clothing on top of it, like leggings, this might be a seam that shows through. And some people don't want that cutting in. This is less of an issue if you have less butt tissue. If you have a bigger butt, it's going to cut in a little bit more as well. If you have maybe like softer flesh on this part, you might feel like it's like cutting in a little bit. So that's maybe one of the negatives, but this is also a really great style for a lot of body types, very, very popular, a little bit more like streamlined. So yeah, it's our cheeky style. So if the first category we're gonna call things that are a little bit higher rise and a little bit smaller through the gusset, this second category, which will encompass the hipster, the boy short, and the cheeky boy short, is going to all be a little bit lower rise, a little bit more coverage, and they all have the same larger gusset through the center of the legs. So first up on that list is the hipster. I would say generally this is our second bestseller over the thong. It's a great cut, like pretty much across the board for a full coverage gaff. This is a really great introductory piece. This is what we recommend for organizations who are getting their first gaffs in an order from us, and especially if they're working with younger folks or people who are newer to tucking and gaffing. It's very, very user friendly. So you can see it's got a ton of coverage here. The other one came like in this crease up over the leg. This one comes down nice and low. We've got lots of coverage through the sides here, and then we've got a full coverage on the butt and with the elastic that comes just under the butt cheek here. So fully all around, lots of great coverage through the legs as well. I know it's a little bit hard to see on my mannequin, but it is a nice thick gusset through the front, which just makes it really, really easy. If you're new to this and you want a little bit more room, you don't want to have a super tight tuck all the time, or you're worried about moving around and spilling out, or you're worried about taking your gaff on and off through the day and having to rearrange, this is just going to be a lot simpler. So yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit lower rise than the other styles. And so the ones that we're going to be talking about, this one and the two after, the boy short and the cheeky boy short, as I said, they're a little bit lower rise, and they're also three styles where we do need to customize these to both your high hip here and your low hip, because both of them are going to be affected by the coverage over the most round part of your butt. And so when you are measuring for these three pieces, we'll get those two measurements from you, or if you're buying a standard size piece, like you're ready to ship, we want to make sure that we're getting these two measurements compared to the size chart when we're choosing the right style. And if you have a fairly large discrepancy between the size chart, I would definitely recommend going with a custom one, because if one of these two measurements is either significantly smaller or significantly larger than the size chart, we're not going to get a super good fit. They're either going to be too large or too small through one of these places, and it's just going to be a little bit off. So take advantage of the fact that the custom sizing is free. We would love to make something that fits you perfectly. So I would say, like we said, with the first two styles that are a little bit higher rise, they can be great for someone who's got like a little bit more booty. These three styles are a little bit lower, and they're gonna grip under the butt cheek, which means like pulling them up over the butt this way, if you have a little bit more, can tend to lead to like them slipping down and not sitting high enough at the back with the rise here. So it's not as tall this way as the previous two styles. So that is one of the reasons why I would like not recommend these ones particularly, but pretty much for everything else, I think this is a really good fit across the board. There's no other reason why I wouldn't recommend this style. Yeah, it's not even like it's gonna show under a lot of jeans and stuff because of where this elastic sits. It's kind of under the butt cheek, so you don't really see it either. Yeah, we love this one. It's been super, super popular. Basically since we started making gaffs. I really recommend it. The thong is also great. It provides the strongest tuck, but this is probably the second strongest tuck that we carry, and it just fits a really wide range of bodies. Okay, so we've moved on to our fourth of 5 gaff cuts that I'm going to be showing you today. In the range of the lower cut style with fuller coverage, this is our Boyshort Gaff. It is quite similar to the Hipster Gaff in a lot of ways. There are some differences, but generally it's tall through the sides here. It does sit lower. So if you can imagine, it's kind of hard to see on my mannequin, but the crease of the hip is maybe about here, and the Hipster sits right about where that crease is. This one comes down about an inch lower past that hip crease. So it's got a little bit more coverage through this like crease region. I don't know what we're calling that. And you can see on the back, it's got a little bit more coverage around the butt. So like especially here through the sides, this is the main difference. It's coming down a little bit lower on the butt cheek here. So this one is like full coverage all over the butt. Again, these styles are really great for a lot of different folks. They fit a lot of different bodies. This can be really nice if you're like a little bit more straight up and down and you don't have a lot going on in the back. Just because of the way that it comes down on the leg, this sits nice and flat and smooth, and generally like people with that body shape tend to really like the way that this fits. Because it is a lower rise style, again, we want to make sure that it's like coming up high enough in the back rise for someone who's maybe got a larger low hip than high hip. So just being aware of the fact that it is going to be a lower rise coverage and not kind of sit above the hip bones like some of the previous ones that we were mentioning, like the thong and the cheeky. This one does have the widest coverage in this middle gusset region. So I'm really just like playing with this mannequin. Yeah, it can be really user-friendly in that way as well. If you're newer to tucking and gaffing, there's just so much coverage. These elastic bands kind of hold tight around the circumference of the leg, which can just like really make you not have to worry about spillage. Nothing's going anywhere. This whole section is like super, super strong, held in place. Can be really awesome for sports, particularly for that, or swimming, things where you don't want to have to worry about things moving around. Super, super safe. So yeah, having this like stronger edge and that's a little bit more parallel kind of can really emphasize that safety and hold everything in place a little bit stronger than something that comes up on this angle over the leg. Great piece, we love her. Okay, this is the last of the gaff styles that we are currently offering. This is the Cheeky Boyshort. I love this style. This is my personal favorite, not as a gaff, but just like in general, the bottoms that I wear. I love this cut. It's kind of the best of both worlds in my personal opinion, as is something that has a low rise, a nice thick side, but it's also got a nice cheeky coverage in the back here. So it's built similarly to the Hipster and the Boyshort, except instead of being super low on this hip here, we've still got a nice lot of coverage on the sides, but then the line where it's cut over the butt is cheekier. The mannequin is not the best example of a human body, obviously. On a human, it sits a little bit higher on the cheek, if I can kind of fake it, kind of in an arch like over the butt cheek, right? This butt is like not as big as most humans are. So it creates like a really nice kind of rounded shape over here that I think is just really cute. A lot of people like the feeling of where that sits on the body, and also having these nice thick sides. The compression through the width ways of the garment is also something that helps it keep in place and makes you feel like you're really snug. It's the vertical tension that has less stretch that allows for that tuck, but the way that it squeezes you in this way, there's more stretch to it, and that's the way that we build it to make sure that A, you can get it on and off, and B, it's gonna be super comfortable. But with a thicker side, it just kind of hugs you and makes you feel really safe and secure. And so a lot of people like these thicker style coverages just for that reason. Again, we've got a nice thick gusset through the front middle here. It's coming nice and low across. Again, if you can kind of imagine, this is the crease of the leg. And so this kind of front middle area has got a lot of coverage through here. So if you're someone who like is a little bit worried about a smaller gusset and where everything's gonna go and how that tuck is gonna be held in place, this is going to be like a little bit easier, a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more like space for everything to go. Yeah, I will say again, this is maybe not the best cut for if you are wearing a super tight garment. Obviously, if you are wearing a more coverage garment, it's not gonna fit under like a swimsuit bottom in the same way. Most swimsuit bottoms, you're gonna want something that's smaller coverage than the suit itself. So the swimsuit bottoms that we sell have one layer of compression mesh in them, like the backs do. Which allows for some compression, but definitely if you want to have a really, really strong tuck underneath, you can wear a gaff, and you want to wear something that's got a little bit smaller coverage than the bottom itself. So if you have a cheeky swimsuit bottom, you want a thong to go underneath of it, etc., etc. So yeah, as you can also see, all of these gaffs have the single layer of mesh in the back, and so they are a little bit see-through. The fronts, we have the double layer of compression mesh, which means that they're a little bit opaque. You can see really well from the side here. So just this is what you can kind of expect in terms of the coverage, which it makes for the front being nice and opaque. You don't have any see-through sheerness going on through here. So lots of different reasons why you might choose some of these gaffs over the other ones. There is no hard and fast rules to this, and everyone's body is different. So I would say if you have a cut of underwear that you already really love, definitely go for it and try the style that most resembles that. I'm not going to tell you that any of these can't be worn in any particular body shape or size. But these are kind of the recommendations based on data that we've accumulated over many, many years and feedback from customers and all of that. Yeah, remember that we can always customize all of these garments, so please feel free to send your measurements and we can customize them to fit you perfectly. That's either going to be the high hip measurement for those first two or the high and low hip measurement for these last three with the fuller coverage. And yeah, please reach out if you have any questions about which style is going to be best for you. We're always here to try to walk you through it. And we've got lots of other information in the resource section about how tucking and gaffing works, how to do it safely, how to do it while swimming, all sorts of other resources. So, oh, and I'm always developing new styles of gaffs. And because gaffs are really our best seller, we really want to expand this range over time. I would love to hear more about what is needed, what you feel is missing from this line, if there's any particular styles that you love and would like to see. I'm very, very interested in what people are looking for, especially if you've worn our gaffs before. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Ray from Origami Customs, and please let us make your gaffs. We would love to so much.